Get me the Chief Whip, Bernard.
Yes, Prime Minister. Get me the Chief Whip.
Now.
Now. Oh, hello, Chief Whip. Are you in number 12? Well, the Prime Minister wants to see you urgently.
Now.
Now! Thank you. Sir Humphrey.
Oh, yes, Bernard.
I'm very troubled by what I've just learned.
What is that?
Well, I feel as if I've been walking about with my eyes shut. I never realised that there was a cabinet plot against the Prime Minister.
Is there? How interesting.
But you said there was.
I said nothing, Bernard, nothing at all.
You mean, oh. Well, do you know if there is a plot?
No.
No, there isn't, or no, you don't know?
Yes.
Sir Humphrey, what exactly has the Employment Secretary done?
Nothing as yet, Bernard, and we must keep it that way.
But isn't his plan rather a good one?
For whom?
The country.
That is hardly the point.
Why not?
Bernard, when you move on from here, where do you plan to go?
Well, I don't know.
Well, how would you like to be Deputy Secretary in charge of Defence Procurement?
Oh, gosh.
In Sunderland, or Berwick-on-Tweed, or Lossiemouth.
Is that a place?
Lossiemouth? What do you think it was?
A dog food.
Well, if the Employment Secretary has his way, you may get a 3-year diet of Lossiemouth yourself, you see?
Crikey, yes.
So how can it be good for the country?
Well, it couldn't possibly. But why did you suggest sending for the Chief Whip? To confirm a plot that doesn't exist?
Because he's bound to hedge. The Chief Whip cannot categorically state that there's no plot against the Prime Minister, just in case there is. He has to cover himself. Oh, good morning, Chief Whip.
Good morning. Could you wait in the private office?
Certainly. Bernard? Now, go in there and inform me of their conversation.
Well, I'm not sure I can do that, Sir Humphrey. It might be confidential.
Bernard, the matter at issue is the defence of the realm and the stability of the government.
But you only need to know things on a need-to-know basis.
I need to know everything. How else can I judge whether or not I need to know it?
So that means you need to know things even when you don't need to know them. You need to know them not because you need to know them, but because you need to know whether or not you need to know. And if you don't need to know, you still need to know so that you know that there was no need to know.
Yes.
Good. That's very clear. Chief Whip, Prime Minister.
Morning, Prime Minister.
How are things going, Chief Whip?
Oh, quite well, really. Why?
I mean, you noticed nothing?
Well, it's a difficult time. A bit of unrest on the back benches. What did you have in mind, precisely?
A plot? A leadership challenge?
Ah. Yes. Well, actually, I have no real evidence of anything.
But you have suspicions.
Oh, I always have suspicions.
How far has it gone?
Only a very,
Early stage?
early stage. As far as one can tell.
Do you think you ought to have a word with him? Tell him I know what's going on. I don't want to lose him from the cabinet. I just want him under control.
Perhaps you should have a word with him yourself.
No, not at this stage. Who else is involved?
Apart from...
Apart from Dudley, obviously.
Dudley? Yes, of course, apart from Dudley. Well, apart from Dudley... Well, it's a bit early to say. I mean, there may be nothing in it.
Geoffrey, I'm not taking any risks.
No, absolutely not. Now, I'll go and make a few more inquiries.
Prime Minister, this proposal to send defence establishments up to the north is bound to be leaked to the press, isn't it?
Oh, bound to be.
Well, if it were leaked as the Employment Secretary's plan, I agree it would confirm your suspicions, but I'm sure it will go out as a government plan.
Are you? I'm not.
Ah, the evening paper.
God! Look! Swine! There's your proof, Humphrey.
Good heavens, I'm astonished.
Sources in Whitehall report that this imaginative plan, an initiative by the Secretary of State for Employment, has been blocked by the Prime Minister. How dare he? Dare he?
Speechless.
Speechless. I backed him all along the line. I fought for this soddy little plan of his. I gave him his first cabinet post. I've treated him like a son. This is the thanks I get.
How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless cabinet colleague.
It's envy, you know. Dudley is consumed with envy.
It's one of the 7 Dudley sins.
Yes, thank you. Prime Minister, shall we start to draft your letter accepting his resignation?
Well, it's not as simple as that. He'll deny that he leaked, so why am I sacking him? Besides, he's even more dangerous on the back benches than he is as a minister. A sacked minister doesn't even have to pretend to be loyal.
So you mean you'll go ahead with his plan?
Well, I can't. Not now. It'll look as though he's defeated me. I can't risk that. It's a good plan. So, perhaps... no, I...
Prime Minister, you're not being indecisive, are you?
No. No, I just can't make up my mind.
Well, perhaps I can help.
How?
Well, technically, of course, I shouldn't be showing you this.
Why not? I'm Prime Minister, aren't I?
Indeed you are. That's why I shouldn't be showing it to you. It's a Ministry of Defence draft internal paper. The Secretary of Defence hasn't seen it yet. But as you will see, it casts grave doubts on the Employment Secretary's plan.
Does it?
It points out that many of the valuable buildings he quotes can't in practice be sold. Some are listed. Some have strict planning controls. The cost of the move would be prohibitive. It would create massive unemployment in the home counties and East Anglia. And in Part 3, there are pages and pages of objections on the grounds of military strategy.
And all this is absolutely honest and accurate?
It comes from the Ministry of Defence.
Even so, it could be honest and accurate. You know, I think the public has a right to know this.
It is a top-secret document. On the other hand, the service chiefs are notorious for their indiscretion.
Notorious.
It could well find its way into the hands of some irresponsible journalist.
Quite. Or several irresponsible.
Several indeed.
Of course, I could never be a party to anything like that.
Certainly not. So, Prime Minister, shall we defer further discussion of the Employment Secretary's plan to an unspecified future date?
Yeah, let's drop it.
Prime Minister, meanwhile, I'll go and attend to the plumbing.
When's he going to leak it?
Did I ask for a leak, Bernard?
Well, not in so many... No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. I occasionally have confidential press briefings, but I have never leaked.
Oh, that's another of those irregular verbs, isn't it? I give confidential press briefings, you leak. He's been charged under Section 2A of the Official Secrets Act. Sir Humphrey?
Yes, Bernard.
Have you got a moment?
Yes, Bernard.
I've got a problem.
Yes, Bernard.
You know?
Yes, Bernard.
How?
Because you've just told me, Bernard.
I mean, do you know what my problem is?
Your problem is, Bernard, that you don't ever come to the point.
Yes, sorry. Well, the Prime Minister has just had lunch with Derek Burnham, the editor of...
Yes, I know he is, Bernard.
Yes, and the Prime Minister told him that the minutes of Cabinet Committee confirm that he didn't try to suppress Chapter 8 of the book, and that he would publish them if necessary to prove that he didn't.
So what is your problem?
Well, the minutes aren't written yet.
I see.
So, what should I do?
Write them, dear Bernard.
Yes, well, the problem is the Prime Minister did try to suppress the chapter, didn't he?
I don't know, did he?
Well, didn't he? Don't you remember?
What I remember is irrelevant, Bernard. If the minutes don't say that he did, then he didn't.
So you want me to falsify the minutes?
I want nothing of the sort. It's up to you, Bernard. What do you want?
I want to have a clear conscience.
A clear conscience.
Yes.
When did you acquire this taste for luxuries? Consciences are for politicians, Bernard. We are humble functionaries whose duty it is to implement the commands of our democratically elected representatives. How could we possibly be doing anything wrong if it is being commanded by those who represent the people?
Well, I can't accept that, Sir Humphrey. No man is an island.
I agree, Bernard. No man is an island, entire of itself. and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee, Bernard.
So what do you suggest, Sir Humphrey?
Bernard, the minutes do not record everything that was said at a meeting, do they?
Well, no, of course not.
And people change their minds during a meeting, don't they?
Well, yes.
So the actual meeting is a massive ingredients for you to choose from.
Oh, like cooking?
No, not like cooking. Better not to use that word in connection with books or minutes. You choose from a jumble of ill-digested ideas a version which represents the Prime Minister's views as he would, on reflection, have liked them to emerge.
But if it's not a true record...
The purpose of minutes is not to record events, it is to protect people. You do not take notes if the Prime Minister says something he did not mean to say, particularly if it contradicts something he has said publicly. You try to improve on what has been said, put it in a better order. You are tactful.
But how do I justify that?
You are his servant.
Oh, yes.
A minute is a note for the records and a statement of action, if any, that was agreed upon. Now, what happened at the meeting in question?
Well, the book was discussed, and the Solicitor General advised there were no legal grounds for suppressing it.
And did the Prime Minister accept what the Solicitor General had said?
Well, he accepted the fact there were no legal grounds for suppression, but...
He accepted the fact that there were no legal grounds for suppression. You see?
Oh.
Is that a lie?
No.
Can you write it in the minutes?
Yes.
How is your conscience?
Much better, thank you, sir.
Yes, Bernard?
Have you got a moment?
Yes, Bernard.
I've got a problem.
Get on with it, Bernard.
Yes, well, it's just that, I've just been interviewed by the press.
You gave an interview?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Well, that's not your job.
Well, I know, I couldn't help it. It just happened. They just trapped me into speaking to them.
What did you say?
Nothing, really.
Well, what's your problem?
Well, they were asking me about you.
What about me?
About you and the Official Secrets Act.
And?
Whether you were bound by it.
Of course I'm bound.
Yes, of course you are. But it might not come out like that.
What do you mean?
Well, thinking back on what I said and what they said, and what I said you said, and what they may say I said you said, or what they may have thought I said I thought you thought. Well, they may say I said I thought you said, you thought...
Go on, Bernard.
Well, I think I said you thought you were above the law.
You said that.
Well, not intentionally. That's just the way it came out. I'm terribly sorry. They were just asking me all these questions.
Bernard, just because people ask you questions, what makes you think you have to answer them?
Well, I don't know.
You've never answered my questions just because I asked them.
I know.
After a lifetime in the civil service, an entire career devoted to avoiding questions, you suddenly decide to answer them today, and to the press, you must have flipped your lid, Bernard.
Please don't shout at me, Prime Minister. I assure you I won't answer any more questions ever again.
Get Humphrey and Bill in here.
Will you send Sir Humphrey in, please, and Bill Pritchard?
And if this question should ever arise again, Bernard, this is how you deal with questions. If you have nothing to say nothing. Better still, have something to say and say it, no matter what they ask. Pay no attention to the question, just make your own statement. And then if they ask the question again, what you say is, that's not the question, or I think the real question is, and then you make another statement of your own. Well, how's that leak inquiry coming on?
Well, Prime Minister, the wheels will be turning very soon.
Very soon. I asked you a week ago. What's the matter with you two?
Sorry, Prime Minister, I had no idea you were serious. Leak inquiries are not usually pursued.
Well, I want this one pursued. Rigorously and immediately.
Rigorously?
And immediately.
Immediately?
Immediately.
Oh. What? Do Do you mean you really want it pursued?
What's the lips move, Humphrey? I want it pursued. Now.
Very well, Prime Minister, if you're serious, I will arrange a genuine arm's-length inquiry if that's what you really want. I'll get Inspector Plod of the Special Branch.
Thanks. Now we have to do something to improve our relations with the press, which have deteriorated considerably today. Since my esteemed private secretary saw fit to tell them that I felt myself to be above the law when it came to official secrets. Yes, you may well hang your head, Bernard.
Yes, I've spoken to the Home Office. They say there's no possible grounds to pass an Act of Parliament to allow this particular dog into Britain. I know an enabling act can enable anything, but the Prime Minister feels it would merely enable him to lose the next election.
Have you thought about turning the whole of Buckingham Palace into a quarantine zone for dogs?
Are you serious?
Just a thought.
What about the corgis?
Oh.
Hang on. Graham, phone the palace now and check that Her Majesty's not been told officially that this gift has been proposed. Then she can't be implicated in refusing it, yes. Yes, we will want simultaneous translators. No, not when the PM meets the leaders of the English-speaking nations. Yes, the English-speaking nations can be said to include the United States. A certain generosity of spirit. Sorry, I've got to go. Yes. Yes, there are about 10 Prime Ministers flying in today. Special Branch are going crazy. So is the band of the Royal Marines, who've got to play all the national anthems. Oh, I see. Thanks. Argentina's not coming. That's a bit of luck.
Because of the Falklands?
No, because their anthem goes on for about 6 minutes. Look, I know you're worried about this dog. I'm worried about it too. Look, talk to our ambassador in Paris. See if he can think of a way to nobble it. Well, you know, slip it something. See if the Bulgarians have got any spare umbrella tips.
But there is one possibility. Make Buckingham Palace notionally an extension of the French embassy. Then the dog would still be on foreign territory.
Peter, the PM is fighting for the sovereignty of the Channel Tunnel. How do you think he feels about the sovereignty of Buck House? How do you think the sovereign feels about the sovereignty of Buck House? Yes. No, we can't have alphabetical seating in the Abbey. You'd have Iraq and Iran next to each other. Plus Israel and Jordan all sitting in the same pew. We'd be in danger of starting World War III. I know Ireland begins with an I, but no. Ireland doesn't make it any better. Ireland doesn't make anything any better. And by the way, make sure everyone knows if the papal envoy says we desire to wash our hands, it means he wants to go and have a pee. Yes, a royal wee. Followed by a royal flush. Oh, and watch out for these South Africans.
Problems with human rights?
No, they're trying to unload more grapefruit.
Bernard, the palace wants to know if there's a problem about the red carpets, and Her Majesty is worried that the President of the Ivory Coast wishes to award her with the Order of the Elephant.
Hang on. Graham, we can't have another animal, especially an elephant. The whole of Whitehall, the Home Office, Foreign Office, Cabinet Office, the DHSS, we've all been tied up with one puppy for nearly a week. Government's been paralysed. No elephants. No, the correct mode of address to a Cypriot archbishop is not your ecstasy, it's your beatitude. For God's sake, yes, what is it? Oh, sorry, Prime Minister. I'm coming straight away.
What on earth is that, Bernard?
Oh, it's the Channel Tunnel file, Prime Minister.
No, the other one.
That's the puppy file.
Where have we got to with that?
Well, it weighed in at 3.5 pounds this morning.
The puppy?
No, the file.
No, but what's happening?
Well, at the moment, we've told the French that airport security will reluctantly have to impound the puppy and keep it in quarantine at Heathrow.
What do they say?
Well, they haven't replied yet. We did point out it was on the route from Buckingham Palace to Windsor, so the Queen will be able to visit it on the way.
Can you visit quarantine dogs?
Well, if she can't, she can sort of wave to it as she drives down the M.
What do you think they're going to do?
Well, I presume they'll threaten to publish the story if we don't give in on the Channel Tunnel.
Prime Minister, forgive me. I have urgent news.
I hope it's good news.
Well, yes and no. The police have just found a bomb in the grounds of the French embassy.
What? Who put it there?
Well, we don't know yet. Lots of people could have a motive.
Yeah, me for a start. Prime Minister, you need to see this security file immediately.
Not now, Bernard. I'm about to talk to the French president.
Yes, but you should see this file first.
That bomb in the French embassy, Prime Minister, it was planted there by the French police.
You're not serious. Why?
Oh, to see if they could catch us out, to prove our security inefficient.
Smuggling explosives into the UK illegally?
That's correct.
Have you got proof of this?
We found a matching detonator in their hotel. They've confessed.
This is wonderful. Humphrey, give me 2 minutes alone with the President, and then when I give you a signal, bring that file in.
Oh, Prime Minister, what will the signal be?
I'm so sorry, Monsieur le Président. I'm sure he's just coming.
Monsieur le Président. The tunnel.
The tunnel, indeed. But first of all, can we clear up this silly misunderstanding about the little puppy, which I am presenting as a return gift to Her Majesty tomorrow?
Yeah, there's no misunderstanding. I'm very sorry, but I can't ask the Queen to break the law.
I do not want the Queen to break the law. I merely ask the Prime Minister to bend it.
I'm deeply sorry, if I possibly could.
If the French people learn of this rejection, a national slap in the face.
The tunnel.
The tunnel. But you make it very difficult for me. The French people will not accept a second slap in the face. And you are rejecting our very reasonable proposal for French sovereignty as far as Dover. However, setting that to one side, there is the question of which shall be la langue de préférence, the first language.
Sir Humphrey, I have just seen this order of service for tomorrow. It is deeply embarrassing. This hymn.
On Jordan's bank, the Baptists cry.
Why? Don't you know the Jordan Bank went bust yesterday?
But surely, if we have half the signs in French first and half the signs in English, that's fair?
It's not logical.
Does logic matter?
Does law matter?
Oh, yes. Britain is the only country in Europe still free of rabies.
I'm so sorry. The Bernard will handle this for you. Bernard, excuse me. Monsieur le Président, will you please forgive me? Prime Minister, I think you ought to see this urgently.
No, I don't believe it. Mr. President, I shall have to ask you to explain this. You need hardly say how grave this matter is.
Prime Minister, I must ask you to believe that I had no knowledge of this.
An attempt by a guest to deceive Her Majesty's government? Illegally smuggling explosives into the UK?
But you must know that the French government never knows what French security are doing.
You mean you're not able to take responsibility for them?
No, that's not what I mean, but if this report is true, I must ask you to accept my profound regrets.
It's true enough, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you. You see, it makes it so difficult for the Prime Minister over the Channel Tunnel.
When news of this bomb is published, the British people will want to make very few concessions.
They won't know whether it's safe to go through.
It could be full of official French bombs.
Absolutely.
Of course, in the interests of Anglo-French friendship, we could perhaps overlook the crimes of your security men.
I suppose sovereignty halfway across?
I'll just write that down, if I may.
Half the signs in English first and the starting ceremony in 2 months in Dover.
Morning, Prime Minister. Is it the newspapers?
Yes. They all say that since my administration came into office, nothing has changed.
You must be very proud.
That's not meant as a compliment, Bernard. I read all 10 of this morning's London newspapers. There's not a good word about me in 9 of them.
But the 10th is better.
10th is worse, doesn't mention me at all.
What have they got against you this morning?
Well, basically they all say the same thing. That I'm a windbag.
Good heavens.
Yeah. Extraordinary, isn't it? They say that my administration's all rhetoric, that I talk and talk, but nothing ever gets done. Simply isn't true. There are many reforms in the pipeline, great new change of direction, great new schemes of development, a whole new philosophy of government, profound change in the whole social fabric and geopolitical climate of this country.
So what is actually happening?
Nothing yet, obviously.
Oh, that'll be Sir Humphrey.
Better send him in.
Sir Humphrey. I suppose the origin of this criticism is this rumour about another big scandal in the city.
How did you guess? Oh, Humphrey, I've decided to respond to all this criticism about a scandal in the city. The press is demanding action.
What are you proposing to do?
I shall appoint someone.
And when did you take this momentous decision?
Today, when I read the papers.
But when did you first think of it?
Today, when I read the papers.
And for how long, may I ask, did you weigh the pros and cons of this decision?
Not long. I decided to be decisive.
Prime Minister, if I may say, I think you worry too much about what the papers say.
Only a civil servant could have made that remark, Bernard. I have to worry about them, particularly with the party conference coming up. These rumours of a scandal just won't go away, you know.
Well, let's not worry about it until it becomes something more than a rumour. I'd just like to show you the cabinet agenda.
No, not just now, Humphrey. This is rather more important.
With respect, Prime Minister, it is not. The only way to understand the press is to remember that they pander to their readers' prejudices.
Don't tell me about the press. I know exactly who reads the papers. The Daily Mirror is read by people who think they run the country. The Guardian is read by people who think they ought to run the country. The Times is read by the people who actually do run the country. The Daily Mail is read by the wives of the people who run the country. The Financial Times is read by people who own the country. The Morning Star is read by people who think the country ought to be run by another country. And the Daily Telegraph is read by people who think it is.
And Prime Minister, what about the people who read The Sun?
Sun readers don't care who runs the country, as long as she's got big tits.
Yes?
Sir Humphrey, the Prime Minister wonders if you could join him in 5 minutes.
Yes, certainly, Bernard. Bernard?
Yes.
Any news yet about the governorship of the Bank of England?
Well, the Prime Minister is planning to appoint Alexander Jameson, Mr. Clean. So that's one bit of good news.
It's appalling news.
Oh, are you going to try and change the Prime Minister's mind?
No. I'm going to change the Prime Minister's mind.
Well, he seems very keen on him.
I know, so that'll be my starting point. When you wish to suggest that somebody is perhaps not the ideal choice,
You rubbish them?
the first stage is to express absolute support.
Why?
Because you don't want to go on record as saying somebody is no good. You must be seen to be their friend. After all, it is necessary to get behind someone before you can stab them in the back.
But Alexander Jameson is good. He's extremely honest and efficient.
Excellent. So that's the second stage. You list all his praiseworthy qualities, especially those that make him unsuitable for the job. And then you praise them to the point where they become a vice. That's the third stage. Or, better still, you oversimplify his views by labelling them, as you just did.
You mean Mr. Clean?
Yes. But I think we can do better than that. Do sit down, Bernard. Now, isn't he a churchgoer?
Yes, I believe he was once a lay preacher, a long time ago.
Splendid news. We can certainly use that against him. What a charming man. Hasn't an enemy in the world. But is he really up to dealing with some of those rogues in the city?
Well, that won't wash. Jameson's pretty tough.
Then we'll say he's too tough. That's the fourth stage. You name all his bad points by defending and excusing them. You know, it probably doesn't matter that he was a conscientious objector. I'm sure that nobody's really questioned his patriotism. Or I think the criticisms of him for bankrupting his last company weren't entirely fair.
Well, that would certainly do it.
Well, if it doesn't, you can always hint at a hidden scandal. If he's not married, hint at homosexuality.
If he is married?
Adultery. With a lady who is beyond reproach, one of the royals, for instance. Or a television newsreader.
Well, what if he's obviously happily married?
Well, then say he's extremely puritanical, or he drinks, or he's having psychiatric treatment. Really, Bernard, the possibilities are endless. Listen and learn, Bernard.
Yeah. Sir Humphrey,